what's happening, folks?
Hello, hello.
We are back for another episode of The Smarter High. Alex, we've been doing this for a couple weeks now, man.
Yeah. Yep. It's going good. It's going good. I think we're getting better at this thing here.
Oh, we're getting better.
Yeah.
We're getting better. Because first couple weeks, a little anxious, but we're getting better every day, guys. And we thank you for your support. Thanks for coming back for another episode. Today, we have a very special topic. We were looking at some of our metrics, and Kratom is a big question mark for, it seems, a lot of you out there.
Kratom.
I've been selling Kratom for years, and I took a lot of time to kind of educate myself about it. Like, I told you last week that before I bring anything into the shop that's going to go on people's bodies, I do a lot of research. So I can understand it and educate my customers or anybody that has questions, right? But before we get into that, Alex, how was your week? How was your comedy career going?
I was going all right. It's good. It's going good, actually. Last weekend, I killed at a nice little show, got booked again. But I had to skip a comedy show last night because I have a bitch of a toothache going on. I'm a little swollen. I don't know if you guys can tell at home.
I can tell, bro. You look messed up.
Going on right here. Yeah, it's a lot, and I've had a hell of a time getting it taken care of. But it should be tomorrow. Next day, we're gonna get this thing taken care of. There, it's hard to be funny when you have a toothache like that.
Yeah, I can't be anything when I'm dealing with
exactly. Shuts down especially that tooth pain. It's like it's on the inside of your head. It just, you can't, shuts down that whole side of your body. It's like, nah. Yeah.
So we appreciate Alex working through the pain, guys.
Maybe.
Because we need to share this information.
And take proper care of your teeth, people. I have damn good teeth in general. I do. I got a nice set of teeth. The ones in the back, and I grind on them at night and stuff, and it's just, it's unavoidable.
My mother made sure that we went to the dentist every 6 months when I was a kid, because if you get a good base of tooth care, it'll last a long time.
Absolutely.
I don't get cavities.
Those checkups and stuff, that's lucky. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I had that too when I was younger. Kind of drifted away from it a little bit. You know what I mean? I just spent $600 on my dog at the vet, and I'm like, damn, I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years. Shit. But
your tooth pain kind of dovetails into our little conversation today. You might want to try some Kratom, brother.
There you go.
Because you probably got a few days before you could get it dealt with. So we will talk about that after the show. Get him some samples, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so I've done a couple Kratom kind of based episodes on the channel, just trying to do what we're doing now. But we're going to go a little bit more in depth today. Did my homework last night, which is, I can't, when I have homework, it has to be the last.
Has to be the night before. Has to be.
Yeah. I got home from, all right, my activity yesterday, it's 9 p.m. I'm like, all right, perfect time to start studying. My ADHD meds have worn off by now. So if there's some spelling mistakes, material here, it's not my fault. But okay, so let's get started here with the Kratom episode.
Kratom, pow.
Yep. Don't you guys love my graphics, man? I spend a lot of time on these guys.
That's a Kratom.
That's a Kratom. That's a Kratom leaf, right? And that is, Kratom is actually a tree. But we will get into that right now. So what is Kratom, right? Let me take this thing off. Oops. Hold on, guys. Got to figure out there we go. Producer did it there. All right, so who here has used Kratom before? Let's start there. Alex, have you used Kratom before?
I have not used Kratom before, but I've had lots of questions about. I've heard about it, and I've seen about it, and I've heard whispers and rumbling.
Okay, let's ask our producer, Kira. You ever used Kratom? No. Okay.
How about you?
I am an avid user of Kratom.
Continuing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Even today. And we'll get into why I use it today, but it has to do with my back. But and historically, there's all kinds of uses for Kratom, guys, and it is a good replacement for a lot of the meds we take today, right? But like any other ethical pharmaceutical, it can be abused. So in order to help you guys kind of navigate that, we're going to do some education here today, all right? So let's just start with what is Kratom. What is Kratom?
What is Kratom? What is it?
Well, it's a leaf plant, and it Well, it's only naturally grown in one part of the world, right? And that is Southeast Asia.
Of course.
And the reason for that is, I don't know, pretty complicated, but it has to do with soil conditions and kind of the climate, soil conditions. Kind of, it even has legal aspects to why it's only grown there. So
that's basically rainforest and stuff out there. I know it's it's jungle, like some of the densest jungle, Malaysia, Philippines, etc. Thailand.
No, it's exactly right. That's exactly right. And because of the tropical nature of that area of the world, because of their access to water and what they call alluvial soil, it is very suited and only suited to that part of the world. So let us go ahead and talk about the conditions that kratom is grown in, right? We're going to start with the climate first. So tropical environment, right? Hot, humid conditions.
Okay.
You need a lot of rain, right? And then it requires a lot of minerals and soil minerals that aren't necessarily available in other parts of the world, or parts of the world. Swamps, rivers, that's where you get alluvial soil from, guys. Anywhere where soil has been moved by water. So that's normally where you're going to find kratom growing. And alluvial soil, I wrote this down so I could read it to you guys. Soils deposited by surface water. You'll find them along rivers, in floodplains, delta, and stream terraces, right? So that kind of soil composition is very hard to find. And there are some attempts to grow kratom outside of Southeast Asia, okay? Most of them, for instance, the ones in the United States are in Miami, because Miami is really the only tropical climate besides, not Miami, but South Florida.
Right.
Hawaii probably has similar conditions because they have a lot of new volcanic soil.
Yeah, nutrient rich.
Very nutrient rich. But these conditions are what goes into our kratom plant and makes it so useful, right? You could not just go out anywhere else in America and try and grow one of these plants. You might get it to sprout, but...
And this is naturally outdoors, not like in an indoor, unless you had some kind of climate-controlled indoor box.
Even then, I don't think the conditions could be made to grow it in like a greenhouse. I think you'd literally have to go get soil from Southeast Asia.
Wow, so Malaysia's got one.
Yeah. And I guess I don't have it, but I thought I had a picture of a kratom tree, but I do. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So these are, this is a kratom plant next to a coffee plant, okay? Now, the coffee plant...
On our right here?
Yeah, the one on the left is the kratom plant. The one on the right is a coffee plant. These are a plant known as a Rubiaceae. They're called Rubiaceae. And let me just show you a picture of a Rubiaceae plant. Rubiaceae are all over the planet, right? And they have seed pods, they have flowers, and a lot of the medicines we use today are from this family of plants, all right? And there's also a couple other reasons that kratom is only grown in this part of the world. It's the knowledge, right? The indigenous peoples of this area of the world have been using kratom for thousands of years as an analgesic, which is pain relief, anxiety relief. It's even known as kind of a social lubricant at kratom's lower doses. I last episode I said kratom's not recreational. It can be used recreationally, right? Americans just tend to go too far with shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we could use kratom that responsibly. So right. for some of us, it can't be recreational.
A large part of my experience with kratom has been coming across Google ads or things that say like, "Oh, my son got addicted to kratom. Don't let your kids try kratom." Stuff like this. So it's that warning aspect of it. Who takes shit too far sometimes.
Yeah,
and it's
well, everybody's looking to get high.
Right.
Everybody's, instead of feeling okay, people want to get high. And when you go down that road,
yep,
addiction can come pretty quickly.
You got to pay the piper.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, guys. There is no free inebriation tickets here. It always comes with a consequence. So, with anything, like, because you guys know me and Alex are kind of former addicts, right? It's been years for me. It's been years for him, but it took a lot of life fixing, I'll call it, for us to kind of get to the point where we were responsible members of society again.
Absolutely. Still undergoing. Still.
Oh yeah, it's a process,
but definitely come a long way. Both of us.
It's a process.
Congrats, by the way, on that, because
congrats to you.
It's not easy.
Because I wouldn't be here unless I went through this process, guys.
Same.
But back to what we're talking about. The last part of kind of why Kratom is only grown in this part of the world are the challenges of growing Kratom other places. And you got climate mismatches, you got the knowledge transfer, right? You have legal kind of issues. A lot of these countries that have Kratom don't allow it to be exported. They don't allow foreigners to go to these places and mess with these plants. So the countries that grow this stuff indigenously have protected this plant so it can't be abused, which is probably a good thing. But so as Kratom has kind of proliferated across the world, we have kind of learned about its physical characteristics. There have been studies of the Kratom plant, but it is definitely a plant that is very similar to marijuana in that it looks like in ancient times this was a regular part of these people's diet, right? Because you can chew the leaves even, like coffee. So, you can imagine in ancient times, workers out in the field, they would chew these Kratom leaves to kind of give themselves a boost and get through their day. And the Rubiaceae family, which is what part of, is also what coffee is part of.
Okay.
Right. So if you're looking for the most similar plant to Kratom, it is coffee.
And it's funny, it's a stimulant, you know what I mean? It has stimulant properties,
It has stimulant properties at lower doses. At higher doses, it acts like a depressant.
Okay.
But if you take it at a normal dose, you will get that kind of boost. And this is mentally as well as physically. I use it in the morning instead of like coffee sometimes, right?
Okay.
If I need to get my brain jump started, I'll take a little bit of Kratom, and that will act just like coffee. I tend to think that there's no how coffee can give you that kind of drop after the caffeine.
The crash.
Kratom, the crash. Kratom doesn't do that if you use it normally. So Kratom is a tree. Okay, it's in the evergreen family. So these can get big, right? They can get up to 30 feet tall.
Wow, so a real tree.
Yes, it's a tree.
Cool.
It's a straight tree. And if you go to this part of the world and look at the Kratom orchards, it looks like a tree farm. It looks like a tree farm, and they have various Kratom plants at different stages of growth. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there are some variability in when they harvest the plant that leads to the different types of Kratom, right? The leaf of the Kratom plant, which is a big broad leaf. Can we put the picture of Kratom back up there for me?
It reminds me of like a crescent roll or a cornucopia. Anyway, your Kratom character that's up there. That always catches my eye for some reason.
Well, that's exactly what he looks like. But the medicine or the herbal component of the Kratom plant comes from the veins, guys. So if you look at our picture here on the left, you see where the darker sections of it are. Those are the veins of this leaf, and that is where the active ingredient comes from.
It's like the bones of the plant. The plant's bones, yeah, kind of. It's like the support structure that holds up otherwise.
The bones of the plant. That's fucking hilarious. But no, Alex is right. This is how the plant transfers its nutrients into the rest of the plant through this vein system. And these veins can come in a bunch of different colors.
That's what I was wondering. You got red, you got white, you got Indo white, you got the Bali red, you know what I mean? Connoisseur blend.
Yep, and that is those veins and their colors are based on different stages of kratom plants growth. So there are three main colors. You got red, green, and white.
Okay.
Those are the three most recognized kind of strains of kratom, guys.
Like Christmas, like Ireland, like Italy.
I never even noticed that. No, I never even noticed that. It's
Wait,
so
but all
true.
it represents is the place where it's at in its growth. Is that right? Like a
Yes.
like a bell pepper.
Yes.
Okay.
For instance, the white vein kratom, which white vein kratom has stimulant properties, right? Like when people come in and they say, I need a boost or something like that, I tell them, let's go with white vein kratom.
Okay.
And white vein kratom is the initial stage of growth in the kratom plant. So usually they're smaller, the ones they harvest this white kratom from. And there is an active ingredient, which we'll talk about in a little bit, called metragenine. And that is what's responsible for the effects that you feel when you use kratom.
Okay.
So after white vein, there is green vein. Oh, one more thing. These active ingredients are what are known as alkaloids. Okay. Oh. And these alkaloids there's all kinds of different alkaloids, and we don't need to get into the science of them. But this is the form that attaches to your receptors in your body. And interestingly enough, kratom hits the same receptors that opiates do. Right. So when you take kratom, you're actually dealing with the same system that's responsible for the opiate use or the effects from opiate use, which is why it makes a good kind of harm reduction herb, right? Where you can replace your opiate with kratom use. That's where a lot of people start with kratom.
That's the very first time I heard of kratom was when I was talking to who was addicted to opioids at the time, and I was, and he was talking about how he uses it to get off, or to get off of them, or to otherwise get high like he would with an opiate, right?
Yeah, because you can, guys, you can absolutely get high from kratom in a very close to opiate fashion. It's when you're taking too much, but that is definitely possible, and a lot of people abuse it in that way. Right. But like anything else, you will pay the price for because it comes with withdrawal, just like anything else. Green vein kratom, which is our next major color here, is from the midpoint of the kratom growth cycle, right? And it's probably the most used form of kratom. A lot of people that come in here want a little bit of relaxation, which you get with red, and they want a little bit of boost, which you get with white. So green is kind of in the middle. Is
it fair to compare it to like indica sativa spectrum kind of deal?
Yeah, similar, because
relaxing.
Green would basically be a hybrid between the two, red and white, kind of midpoint. So you're right about that. There's another thing about kratom, guys. It's branded, like when you go into a smoke shop, for instance, mine, we have a brand called Club 13, and they all are separated by color, but then by growth locale, right? So Bali Red is from Bali. Malay Green is from Malaysia. Indo White is from Indonesia, right? So because you have different soil compositions in these places, you're going to get different effects. Now this is Club 13, right? This is a brand where I know the people that grow it. I know the people that package it. You have to make sure that where you're buying this stuff from is reputable, because when kratom first started, you had people doing this shit in their garage with like shovels, right? They'd get a bag of this stuff from from Southeast Asia, and they would package it in their garage, which is how you get things like salmonella poisoning.
There you go.
Which is common in the kratom industry.
And can I just say something that the Scyfli, Mark in particular, and the Scyfli, there's a million smoke shops gas station places you can probably buy kratom from, right? Mm-hmm. I remember that K2 shit and the spice. And
face-eating drug.
Terrible for you. And that was the same thing, made in somebody's garage. But Mark, all the stuff that you see in Scyfli, it's like a great shop. Like he knows the people that it's very much like ethically farmed and good for you, at least not terrible for you. It doesn't put you in those situations. So you can trust, you know what I mean, the Scyfli and Mark. That's one thing I love about this place here.
Yeah.
And it will last into the future.
I'm very conscious about potentially hurting someone, and that would make me feel...
Well, other places are not.
Sorry, no, they're not.
At the gas station, no offense.
They are there to make some money, which is, it's capitalism, guys. But if you're selling stuff that could potentially harm someone, you need to at least warn them, right? Because they can hurt themselves with this stuff. Because you've seen the stories of kids and kids getting addicted to kratom or whatever else it is. Dude, that with the K2 thing, remember, like, somebody ate a face in South Florida, guys.
A face was eaten at some point, and
face eaten. Like, can you imagine a drug that would make you crazy enough to bite into somebody's face?
bath salts, crocodile. No, just
Crocodile's a mess.
I don't even know where that comes from.
I think it's a drug that I think the poor use in maybe South America.
Yeah.
That stuff just melts your face, guys. And if we're going to do that, just stick to meth, because it's far less face dissolving. And then our last vein is red vein. Okay, red vein kratom is extracted from the mature leaves, and there's one that I suggest a lot. Mangda is one of them. There's also Bali. Bali red is one of the most well-known red kratoms, and somebody needs pain relief, right? Or they're dealing with post-surgery pain, whatever it is. This is the one I go to, Red Bali. And Red Bali, in its different forms, you got capsules, powder, and you have liquid, which are the main different forms of kratom. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's also kind of slightly sedative red kratom, so it will help you relax in the evening. Say you got home from work and your back is sore or whatever. Kratom's a good option to take. Now we'll get into the doses of kratom you should take too. I want to make sure that I talk about that, because you got to pick the right dose for you, all right? Because everybody's a little different, and there's always a little bit of trial and error. Everybody starts kratom, because there's no pharmacology done on this stuff where somebody could tell you take this much to get this result. It's very much trial and error, which is a lot of these herbs are, because they big pharma doesn't spend money studying this stuff, right? I think that big companies, if they found something like kratom, that you think they'd say, oh wow, we should come up with a form of this ourselves so that we can help people. Now they don't do that because they can't make any money doing it, right? Because we all have access to kratom, so in its raw form, you don't need any processing, so they can't make money doing this, and this is why
decentralized, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, we as a society have to kind of take control of the agency of our own health, which means you have to educate yourself, guys. You got to educate yourself about what you're putting in your body, what you should be putting in your body, and what you shouldn't be putting in your body. Right. And that's part of my mission here is to kind of open your eyes to these different substances in the world that have maybe been lost to history, right?
And before that had been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years successfully, or whatever, for by our ancestors.
I talk about shamans and medicine men a lot, and this is the kind of stuff they would give to you, right? They would probably grind it up with a mortar and pestle and say, take this every evening for such and such a time, and it'll solve your problem. That's how medicine was done for thousands and thousands of years, right? You had to trust somebody. But there's two main forms, or two main active ingredients in kratom, okay? And I tried to make sure I got these names right. You got mitragynine, and you have 7-hydroxymitragynine, right? And this is how you spell the two right there, guys.
Nice.
And then let's go to my little sheet here. I listed some informations down here because I was going to forget if I didn't, and I do this. So let's talk about the effects of these two main compounds in kratom. First, we're going to talk about just the basic mitragynine. All right, this is where you get the analgesic effects of kratom.
The painkiller effects.
Yes, the painkiller effects. And as you see here, it binds to opioid receptors in the brain, reducing pain perception. That is the main action of mitragynine. It fills in those receptors that are meant for opioids and other pain-relieving substances out there, right? And in lower doses, Metragenine is a stimulant, right? Increased energy, alertness, and sociability. That's where this kind of social lubricant thing comes in, because it will stimulate that part of your mind. If you've ever taken an opiate in a low dose, I don't know if you ever noticed, you might get a little talkative.
Yes.
Right? You might start talking. You might feel good. It might enhance your mood. It might reduce your anxiety. And that is the same effect with Kratom.
When you said stimulant at a low dose and depressant at a high dose, that was very much opiate-like in terms of pills or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very, very similar. And the reason Kratom is less addictive, well, first, it's a natural compound. But instead of opiates like Percocet or heroin, when it interacts with the receptor sites, it kind of attacks them heavily, right? Let's just think of punching, right? You're punching the receptor site. It rocks it, right? And your receptors get used to that. And when it doesn't have that opioid in there, it craves it, right? That is what withdrawal is. When these receptor sites are empty, they are seeking what they wrestled with yesterday, right? Because they tend to like it. So as soon as this compound leaves your brain, your body starts craving it. It comes with sweats. It comes with irritability. It comes with dry mouth. There are a bunch of effects with opioid withdrawal. These same withdrawal symptoms can happen with Kratom, but they're not so bad that you're going to rob 7-Eleven.
There you go. Right. Whereas opiates, it definitely is.
Yeah. You guys, you've seen the heroin addicts. They need their fix. They are willing to do almost anything to get it, and that is a symptom of withdrawal. Their brains are so ready to get some more that it will do whatever it needs to get it.
That's correct.
And that's why it's dangerous. And that's why opioids are dangerous when you get addicted to. And it takes a matter of days. It takes a matter of days to get addicted to opiates.
Yep.
Right. When I wrestled with them, I was dealing with back pain, and by the third or fourth day, man, I was done. And it took me several years to kind of end that little run of mine. But it's not something they tell you about. The doctors. And this is back in the 2010s and to the mid 2000s. Doctors did not tell you this, and they didn't tell you this because the people that were manufacturing this, which is the Purdue's, they also didn't tell doctors this, right? They wouldn't call it addiction. They would call it what's the word? Not addiction. Dependence.
Yeah.
They would call your dependence instead of addiction.
Literally billions of dollars riding on it, and
well, the Purdue's got massively rich during the opioid craze, and they did end up paying for it, but it's something they could just write a check for, right? These people are insanely wealthy, and they basically are responsible for the opioid addiction crisis in the States, because I can tell you now, most people that had their fun with opioids, they started at a doctor's office. Doctor says, take 2 of these every day for 3 weeks. By the first week, you're addicted, right? But let's get back to metragenine. At higher doses, metragenine has sedative properties, and this is when you get into like the nodding, falling asleep. Not necessarily falling asleep, because opioid sleeping and normal sleeping are not the same, right? You're almost in a form of it's almost like a waking coma sometimes when you've done a lot of opioids. I don't know if you've seen some videos of heroin addicts over in Kensington.
Oh, anybody in Philly, every comedian's got the joke where they bend, but they never fall down.
Yes, because technically they're conscious.
Absolutely. But they're feeling good, probably.
But their brain is so sedated that they could just stand there. And
sloop and slump or whatever.
Yes. And I never understood why that was appealing to anybody. Right. But that's not. They didn't get into this to get into that state. They got into this to deal with another problem. So let's go to 7 metragenine, or hydroxymetragenine, which is the other secondary
Active ingredient.
active ingredient in kratom, and it has a lot of the same effects, but they are more pronounced and stronger with the 7-hydroxymetragenine. Okay, and the balance between these two are what causes the different effects. For instance, in kratom has more 7-hydroxymetragenine in it, and that's what leads to the more potent pain relief, right? And right here, the mu opioid receptors, that's the receptor site that these deal with, and they love the 7-hydroxymetragenine more than regular metragenine because it's more potent for them. So at high doses, you can get very strong sedation, and you can also get some help with sleep and insomnia with more pronounced with 7-hydroxy. More euphoric effects, but also a higher potential for addiction because it's stronger. So guys, you're going to start seeing extracts of kratom all over the place now that we've talked about this for you. But you need to make sure that the brands you're buying knows this, right? You need to make sure that they've considered this, they have this on the packaging, because not seeing the chemical makeup of what you're taking, that's a sign that the people that are manufacturing or selling this might not know what they're talking about. So, you need to make sure that it's lab tested for purity. It's gone through as much kind of checks and balances as it should to make sure it's a safe product.
Right.
Kratom is not regulated by the FDA. Okay, there's no, this kratom has been checked by the FDA kind of standard, but there is a self-regulating industry for kratom, and it's called the Kratom Association. Right. It's basically one of these trade associations that makes its own kind of standards, because without a organization like this, people are doing whatever they want, and then you could end up hurting some people. So in order for kratom to be a legitimate kind of recognized industry, they have to do something like a trade organization to make sure that the information is right. And this is where I get a lot of my my own education are these kratom associations, and they're also responsible for the lobbying that goes on in Congress.
Okay,
right. But in conclusion, you need a balance of these two active ingredients, and you need a safe balance. So understanding the effects is crucial for safe and effective use, guys. So know that when you are taking kratom, you are taking a drug, okay? And you need to act accordingly, because you can really injure yourself by not doing that. So now that we know a little bit more about the chemical makeup of kratom, let us continue on to the current state of kratom, right? Where are we today in kratom? What does the future look like? Why is it becoming so popular in the United States?
And what is the state of that crate?
Yeah. So, guys, kratom began its big proliferation, I'd say about 10 to 15 years ago. I remember I first discovered kratom years ago on a website called Arrowwood.
Oh, why does that sound familiar to me?
Because you know it.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah.
You've looked up this place.
Arrowwood, yes. Arrowwood, right. So you could put in the imprints on the pills and it would tell you which one it is. Right.
So back in the day, guys, when you wanted to find out the effects of a drug or something new to get high with, I really hope this website is down. Do not go to this website. But Arrowwood would have it was basically a forum where people that tried different substances could list their effects and how their experience was.
A very human thing to have, by the way. Yeah,
very human thing. So it was like a council of drug doers.
Right.
And if you had questions about, say, salvia or marijuana or ecstasy, any of these big substances, you could go to this site and you could see how much you should take or how much you shouldn't take, how you should prepare it. You could go and find all of these things on this site. Now, Sometimes that information is wrong. These people were not chemists.
It's very much a Wikipedia, so it's an open kind of thing too. Yeah.
These people are not, I mean, I'm sure there were some, but they're not doctors.
Right.
They're not chemists. They're not pharmacists. These are anecdotal experiences, right? Anecdotal meaning only data I can give on it is what my experience was.
What I remembered about my experience.
Yes. It had nothing to do with, clinical trials or anything like
no
that.
Control group.
No controls. Nope. Pure experimentation.
Yep.
And this is in the early 2000s and onward. This is where I went to kind of, start my experimentation with different substances, because one thing I was semi-cautious about what I put in my body, right? Because there are things out there that can kill you the first time. Right?
Absolutely.
So I was always kind of sure to know that I was doing this as safely as I could, right? It's still not a safe practice to do this, but I still wanted to be as safe as I could.
And that's funny because that flows through to now present day, where you can see the products in here is all good stuff. Like I said, you won't find the stuff that's here or someone that cares about this stuff and cares about you and the health effects and stuff, like, at a gas station smoke shop. All right, last plug for something.
Hey, I love every second, first of all. But guys, so in the early 2000s to about 2012 or so, the proliferation of things like OxyContin and oxycodone and all of these similar products just blew up, guys. You had things like pill mills. You had doctors getting in on this. You literally had offices that were solely for giving out pain pills or pain pill prescriptions. They
still have them, by the way, but the standards are much stricter to get the access. You need an MRI. You need real reasons. Yeah.
Well, they were basically pill mills, guys, and there was a point where doctors, they didn't give a shit. All you had to do, Florida, Louisiana, you can find stories about this in every state, actually, because as sometimes happen, greedy people take advantage of people that need help. So I remember situations where at these pill mills, you'd have the whole parking lot full, people waiting in line, line out the door, and they were there for one thing. They were there to get their fix, okay? And they started legitimately. A lot of these people started legitimately, right? They started at a doctor's office. Doctor, I got pain. Can you help? Doctor says, sure. There's this new thing, oxycodone. It can help, right? Now, the salespeople for OxyContin, which are the salespeople for Big Pharma, are basically regular people. My parents were some of these people, and not selling this particular substance, but they would go into a doctor's office and they would get some time with the doctor, and they would explain about this drug, right? Now, obviously, when these salespeople were trained, they were not trained on the addiction potential of opioids, right? Because had they been, this whole explosion crisis might not have happened the way it did. But the salespeople are there to sell, right? They're there to sell medicine. They're not there to caution you. They expect the doctor to know better, right? Doctors are not the best when it comes to the medicines, right? That's why if you have an older doctor, that older doctor is going to use the older meds that he is familiar with. Sometimes they won't even know about new medications to help you with your particular problem.
There's got to be a million popping up every day.
Yeah, there's drugs created every day, and no doctor can deal with all of them at the same time. So they relied on these salespeople to do it. Once that doctor gets over to a certain age, they kind of are just comfortable with what they've been prescribing for their entire career.
Right.
So that leads to a lot of problems in terms of somebody getting the best medicine at the best time. And that's why sometimes you have to tell your doctor, hey, I would like to try this, right? And that's not necessarily a good thing, because if you're familiar with the American pharmaceutical market, we're one of the only countries that allows pharmaceuticals to have commercials, right?
Those damn pharmaceutical commercials. Let me not get started.
They're catchy tunes, first of all.
Yeah.
Jardiance is really swell.
Jardiance.
I don't have diabetes, but I want to try some Jardiance. That's a catchy tune.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that you have to be an advocate for your own care sometimes, and that means finding the latest treatments and medical advice available, and that might not come from your doctor.
Correct.
Right? So anyway, as this kind of opioid crisis grew, there came a point where we realized what was going on as a nation, right? And there was an incredible pullback of all of these meds. Doctors stopped writing scripts. These pill mills started facing legal repercussions, and it came to a point where the people that were using this stuff and going to these pill mills, they now had no options, right? They weren't getting their script.
And that's a problem. That's a big problem. Yes.
Because making something illegal or making it harder to get does not decrease demand. It shifts demand. So the other option for these people was heroin. Okay?
Not to mention cheaper,
right? Or illegally buying it from somebody. So it shifted to this kind of situation where you had a few people that knew where to get either your heroin or your fake pills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it made the problem worse. Okay? Because now instead of a doctor, you got some guy named Joe doing this. And you even got into this situation where people were making fake oxycodone with pill mills or pill presses in their house.
Absolutely.
It's a pill press is
with maybe a droplet of fentanyl instead of, but a droplet is a droplet, and a drop and a half could kill you or whatever. You know what I mean?
And
so
this is how fentanyl enters the scene, guys. Right? Fentanyl enters the scene because you can use a small bit of it, and it goes a long way.
Yep. Spread it out over the batch and pen.
Right. So
I remember fake
fentanyl is a repercussion of American drug policy. Right?
Yeah.
Instead of figuring out a way to wean these people off as a nation, you just shut off the valve, and now they have no options.
Right.
And now you get crime.
Yep. Out the yin yang. And
And Mexico, well, these meds, fentanyl basically comes from China, right? China is a pretty loose regulatory environment, right?
Plus, as hell, you can't watch all those people. I mean, geez, they try their asses off with the social credit score, but on the surveillance state, but like that, you can't possibly see every nook and cranny of that enormous.
I would love to talk about the social credit scores in China. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, guys. But so imagine that your whole online social life is a rating, 1 through 100, and if you talk about the Chinese government or the American government in some bad way, that score goes down, right? But this score determines, how much money you can get in financing.
Jobs you can get.
It determines what job. Can you imagine that? Social credit score.
Yep.
Nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I spend a lot of time looking at the Chinese government. It's a little hobby of mine.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll have an episode where we just go over topics that have nothing to do with our wheelhouse here. We might need one. But anyway. So that's where Kratom begins to come on the scene, guys, because people were looking for options, right? I want to stop using opiates. I'm still in pain and I can't get my opiates. How do I deal with this? And that opens the door for Kratom, okay? And there were several distributors, big warehouses that started importing this stuff en masse to the United States. And first, it was hard to get a hold of because you didn't necessarily know where to go. But like any other industry, especially the head shop industry, the people at the powers that be saw an opportunity. And you started seeing this stuff everywhere very quickly. And my trade shows, for example, that I attend every year, there was one year where this stuff was just everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you had salesmen, and you had ads, and you had sample packages. I get a sample package of Kratom once a damn week, right? I don't trust any of it because I insist on knowing the person, the place, and the how of these of Kratom products and production, right? I'll just list off a couple companies that I like a lot and I know are trustworthy. You got one called Club 13, guy in Florida. That's this brand. There's one called MIT, which is owned by a friend of mine. His name is Santino.
Santino.
Right? And Santino makes this product.
Oh, I've seen this. Okay, yeah.
MIT, if you're familiar with head shops, you've seen this before.
Yep.
This is very potent stuff, guys. It is a kratom extract, so it is many times more potent than the powder itself, right? So you want to, before you start messing with these extracts, you want to talk to somebody like me or do your own research, because the extracts of kratom are good for what I like to call breakthrough issues, right? Say you're dealing with pain that is so constant that you can't think straight, right? Liquid kratom works fast. So you can take it, and within 15 minutes, you're getting some relief, right? The capsules and the powder, which are the other forms of kratom, the powder does not taste good. It tastes awful. So a lot of people go to either the capsule or the extract because they can't get past the gag factor of swallowing kratom.
When I first heard about it, was a spoonful, and that's how you take it. Yeah, of powder, a spoonful of powder.
Which is crazy.
Right.
You got to mix it. Mix it in something, guys. Apple juice is a good one. Coffee's a good one. Coffee's a good one because it kind of masks the flavor of kratom. So that's what a lot of people do that. Apple juice, pineapple juice, stuff that's strong is what you'd want to mix it in.
Oh.
But what was I talking about?
I'm so sorry. Wow.
Okay.
I went in. Oh, you were talking about the powder. It's powder.
Right. Forms of kratom. Yeah. So because of all these different forms of kratom, you have options as to how to take it. Liquid kratom, it being one of my favorite ones, works fast. That's basically what I was trying to say. So now that kratom is on the scene, right? We're making it through the opioid crisis. We can start talking about this in an educated manner, right? Because kratom is here to stay, I hope. Now, there are lobbyists for these big pharma companies that don't want this, and you can imagine why. It messes with their profits.
Yeah.
And that's with a lot of herbal remedies, guys. Big pharma is not a fan of herbal remedies because I've said this many times. I think everything we need to be healthy is already on the planet in some way, shape, or form without pharmaceuticals, right? I am a big advocate for mushrooms and fungus, right? When I started researching the benefits of using mushrooms, not necessarily psilocybin, but that's a good one.
Lion's mane,
cordyceps. There are so many benefits to adding mushrooms to your diet. And, Big Pharma has an interest in keeping that from proliferating as an option, right? So, guys, when you hear negative things about kratom, you now know that, yes, kratom could be a negative thing if you abuse it, right? But if taken responsibly in a manner that is fit for your issue, it does not have to be dangerous. So don't let people tell you any herb is dangerous until you know the full story, right? Because, yes, any herb can be dangerous if taken like an idiot, right? We can abuse anything, Americans especially. We love abusing stuff.
You ever seen the show where the girl eats the toilet paper, and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, my weird obsession.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's the same.
Holy crap.
But take too much anything. Even
they had a follow-up episode of that toilet paper eating lady, and she's still doing it.
She's still doing it, man.
She's still doing it. They sent her to therapy and everything. She's like, I don't care. It's
at a Bezor at one point.
Bro. Weird obsessions. We are,
but we take it too far, and it's like this exact
point exactly. Yeah, we take things too far. The whole, drugs are legal in Oregon experiment that failed because we're Americans.
Mm-hmm.
That failed because we can't be trusted to moderate ourselves. But that becomes the issue in terms of using things safely. You have to use things in a moderate manner, guys.
Yes.
So. Why does any of this matter, right? We're approaching the end of the show, right? Why does kratom matter? Why does this conversation matter? We need to protect kratom and other herbal remedies from the forces that be that would have it made illegal, right? And to be a healthy society, we have to be in harmony with what's on this planet, right? And that means using it instead of some of these artificially created medicines. I myself went through a long journey of discovering these truths about our world, right? Um, I think all of us have to go through a personal journey to arrive at the end that says, man, maybe I should look at these plants that are all around me and do some research and stop eating ultra processed food, or, taking Tylenol every day, or taking any medication in large amounts, because there gets a point where these things begin to harm us, right? We don't know the long-term studies of a lot of this, right? What happens after 60 years of taking a Tylenol? What happens after 60 years of taking Pepsid AC?
What happens to their kids or whatever? Yeah, it's beyond.
Never seen one of these lawsuits on the TV where they say, "Did you take talcum powder in the 70s?" And join this lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's because they did not know how dangerous these things were till 30 and 40 years later. Okay, so it behooves us to find natural options to solve our body's ills.
And it behooves Big Pharma to dissuade those efforts. Yeah, to pay money probably to fight that.
Yeah.
Hence that online where the mom is talking about, "Oh, my son, please don't."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's why this matters. It's not about just kratom. It's about marijuana. It's about mushrooms. It's about
sea moss,
which the jury's still out. It's very gunky and slimy, Alex.
I love it online though. They sing the praises of sea moss online.
Listen, tell them to do a clinical trial. I don't trust slime.
Yeah.
I don't trust slime. Anything could grow on slime, guys.
It'll be like, here's a bottle of slime. Take it and look at me.
How am I going to know?
Right.
I don't know what sea moss looks like. So, but that's my point, guys. There are a lot of natural options to the things that ail us on a daily basis. And we need to have a larger conversation about plants and humans, the dichotomy between the two. And we will continue this kind of vein we're in here. We're going to do mushrooms soon. Boy, mushrooms are so interesting, guys. I don't even know where to start with the science behind mushrooms and how it affects our bodies. It's going to take me at least a couple weeks to kind of get all that. It might take a couple episodes, Alex, because mushrooms do things that are just crazy to me. They talk to each other.
They do.
They are kind of information highways for data and plant systems. They're not a plant, fungi, right? They're also not necessarily, they're not organic like our bodies are. But they carry information,
right,
and they spread information. And we will get into all of that in a later episode, maybe the next one, because now I'm kind of pumped about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a vein of thought that says you should be growing these things at home, because you can grow mushrooms at home very easily, right? And I have a couple mushroom kits I'm going to be bringing into the shop that will help you get started on that journey.
Nice.
Because obviously you can't grow kratom, right? You just forget about that unless you got a condo out in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
But this plant conversation, this mushroom conversation that we're having today is going to get larger as we go on. So if you want to learn about kratom, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a documentary called A Leaf of Faith that was made back in 2018. Very, very good resource for kind of learning about kratom and getting started. If you're local, you can always come to the shop here in Mount Laurel. I love talking about kratom, and I've helped a lot of people use it and get started with using it, and it helped to improve their situations. But you want to talk to somebody like me before you do this. Doctors aren't necessarily very versed in kratom or its effects, so they'll pretty much always tell you they don't suggest it. That's not their fault. They obviously shouldn't go into a realm of things they don't understand. But there are studies being done pretty regularly that are kind of opening the eyes of medical professionals to kratom. So as the years go on, they will get better at this. But if you are interested in Kratom, I urge you to talk to either somebody that, like myself, or somebody online. Reddit's a good place to find a lot of Kratom experts. But don't just go in a head shop, say, I want this, and start taking it, okay? You need to learn what you're doing first, because you can waste your money, right? Or you can get yourself in a situation that's just not physically comfortable. You got to be careful. And for instance, if you guys want to ask questions in the comments, I will answer them. If you guys have any further questions about anything to do with Kratom, ask us in the comments. If you have an experience or something you've been through with Kratom, we would love to hear about it down in the comments. So please interact with us. We want to make sure that we are clear with the benefits and the dangers of Kratom. So looks like we're approaching the end of our show, right? So, Alex, where are you going to be in the next 2 weeks? You got any shows coming up?
I do in the next couple of weeks. There's one coming up on the 5th. That's like a very small one. There's one on the 7th in Mount Laurel, and I'm going to post stuff on my Instagram. Yeah.
Where?
And this is a bit, it's out on Marin Highway, I believe.
Okay.
It's at a place called, I'm not sure, I could find it, but I'll be posting it, and it's going to be a good show, right? Or a lot of my good comedy friends are on it. So this is one that, like, I want.
Oh, I'm going to come to that
to see. Yeah, for sure.
That's a good thing, because I haven't been able to see any of your shows yet, so I will be there with bells on, buddy.
Nice.
We'll make sure to post it on the our social here, because Alex is getting good, folks.
I'm doing
He's going to be famous. He's going to be famous, from our where
the best beginnings are.
I didn't know what to do with my hands for weeks, guys. I don't know what to do with my. I'm sorry. Anyway, next week, or not next week, 2 weeks from now, we got our next episode. It will likely be on mushrooms or something like that. Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Month, everybody, for those that celebrate. Scyfli is a safe place for all peoples. We love everybody, and you have our support. We are approaching 7/10. 7/10, guys, just real quick. The holiday for oil, right, with our dabs in cannabis, is on July 10th.
Dab Day.
We are going to do a little something special on that day, and we're probably going to use some dabs on camera.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be dabbing.
It's going to make me a mess, guys. We're going to do it towards the end of the episode, because once I start doing that, my train of thought just goes completely random. So stick around for a couple weeks to see that. We're kind of going to try and make it fun. I got some new toys for us to use, so it's kind of going to be a review episode at the same time.
Sweet. A lot of cool products in here. The Scyfli. If you guys have never been to the Scyfli in Mount Laurel at the Ellipse on Route 73 in Mount Laurel, great head shop. Mark cares about his products and his customers and everything, so this is a good place to be. It's been here for a while, and it's under that it's a great spot up here.
We're in our 14th year, man, if you can believe that.
14 years. I remember when it popped up, I was like, a head shop in Mount Laurel?
I've spent thousands of hours in this room.
Yeah.
It makes me crazy when I think about it sometimes. But this is my life, guys, and I'm here to spread knowledge and increase the vibration of our society, which it's a whole nother ball of wax. But we love you guys. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Peace.